This video discusses some difficult topics, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers doesn't go on the air. It doesn't happen without some extreme luck. If Haim Saban doesn't just happen to see Sentai on television during a Japanese business trip and fall in love with the property. If he didn't manage to convince the only other person who understood the value of what he was adapting, Margaret Loesch, to greenlight the franchise at Fox Kids. If Loesch hadn't persevered through countless attempts by her affiliate base and 2 different Fox network presidents to drop the show. If Power Rangers could have been derailed in all sorts of ways, and the fact that it got on the air to begin with is sort of a miracle. But Power Rangers gets on the air, but it does not become a phenomenon if they weren't lucky with both the source material and their casting choices. Understand, Haim Saban was trying to make this since 1986, shopping around a pilot using footage from Chodenshi Bioman. But by 1993, that show was nearly a decade old, and the decision was made to switch to a newer Sentai for the source material.
Kyoryu Sentai! Zyuranger!
Zyuranger has a number of great things going for it. The timeless dinosaur motif, brilliant looking suit and mecha designs, a fantastic scene-chewing performance from Michiko Soga. But perhaps the most important was the Dragon Ranger Burai, Super Sentai's first use of a 6th major hero character. Burai was initially allied with the villains before forming an alliance with the Zyurangers. So, Power Rangers adapts the Zyuranger footage starting with its 17th episode, which kicks off a 5-part storyline called Green with Evil, and you can just see the point where Power Rangers go supernova. In it, we meet Tommy Oliver, a new student at Angel Grove High played by Jason David Frank. Tommy is immediately established as the match for Jason, the Red Ranger, in a martial arts competition. Rita Repulsa sees this and recruits him, quote-unquote, to be her personal Green Ranger. In short order, Tommy enters the command center and wrecks it, disabling Alpha 5 and seemingly killing the Ranger's mentor, Zordon. He then hijacks the Megazord and tosses the Rangers out of the cockpit, proceeding to just kick their ass in an epic fight. This all happens in part 1. We have 4 more episodes. Green with Evil is the first story to use a status quo that Mighty Morphin in particular would excel at. The Rangers on their heels, facing huge stakes, battling their foes while facing impossible odds. It's a formula that has led to some of the franchise's best moments, particularly Season 3 of Mighty Morphin, and all of Power Rangers in Space. And they are constantly on the losing end during this 5-parter, with Jason's kidnapping and fight to the death with Goldar in Part 2, the arrival of Scorpina in Part 3, and the Megazord getting utterly demolished by a trio of Goldar, Scorpina, and a giant Green Ranger in Part 4. The final part, airing on October 9th, marked the show's arrival to the Fox Kids Saturday morning lineup, and the point where the Rangers reversed the spell. The Green Ranger was now a good guy. This whole 5-parter is anchored by the performance of Jason David Frank. There's a broodingness to his performance, even in the few scenes where he's good, and like many a pro wrestler, he clearly relishes being in the role of the heel, or the bad guy. It's a stretch to call Frank's acting in this good. MMBR was never really a haven for great performances, and JDF was the greenest actor of all the original cast. But he has presence. And like all great screen villains, that's all you really need. For the next 12 episodes after this, Tommy is part of the main cast, and he fights on the side of good, though several episodes still hint at a darker side. Like Gung Ho, for example, where Jason and Tommy are at each other's throats the whole episode, and a rare example of Power Rangers featuring genuine conflict amongst the good guys that's not caused by an evil spell. But there's an issue underlying all of this. Power Rangers is not a totally original show. Remember that. It was based around the footage that they had from Zyuranger. And in Zyuranger, the Green Ranger is only around for a short time. He's revealed to be dying, a green candle signifying his dwindling life force. In America, characters on a kid's show can't die, so the green candle was reworked into a device to strip Tommy of his powers. And that happens at the end of the 2-part episode, The Green Candle. And if things had happened according to plan, that was it. That was going to be the end of Tommy Oliver and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The character makes a brief appearance at the end of Doomsday, the 2-part episode that was originally planned to be the series finale. And that was that. But Saban saw something in JDF and continued the relationship. Seeing the early positive ratings from Power Rangers, the company moved ahead with plans to adapt another tokusatsu, the Metal Heroes series Metalder. They cast JDF in the title role of what was marketed to broadcasters as Cybertron, a name that certainly never would have survived the wrath of Hasbro's lawyers. Now, I say JDF would have played this role because, of course, Power Rangers didn't end. When it was clear that Power Rangers was by far the biggest thing that Saban Entertainment had ever done, the company put the show back in production despite having exhausted all usable Zyuranger footage. No problem. When Saban put Power Rangers into production in the first place, it contracted Toei for additional footage. Ever wonder why the Make My Monster Grow clip synced up perfectly to Machiko Soga's lip movements? That was because it was shot specifically for Power Rangers. It was never used in the Sentai. Using the contracts made for that footage, Saban contracted out footage for 25 new monsters. This footage would make up 20 additional episodes of Season 1, and the first 13 episodes of Season 2. And it would be known amongst fans as Zoo 2. We'll get to Zoo 2 when we actually do Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Fox Kids Club, but it included footage with all of the Zyuranger suits, including the green one. You can guess what happened on February 28th, 1994.
Where's everybody?
Go Green Ranger, go!
In the 2-parter Return of an Old Friend, Tommy Oliver with significantly longer hair is reinstated as the Green Ranger. But this time, there are some clearer caveats. Tommy's powers are now explicitly limited, and he needs periodic recharges in order to morph into action. This, I think, is the most interesting Tommy is as a heroic figure. He wants to help, but he's limited in what he's able to do. It's a sense of powerlessness that I think all of us can relate to. And it's a powerlessness that only grows when we hit Season 2 and the arrival of the Thunderzords. Tommy has to rely on his old Dragon Zord, and that can't combine with the new Zords. It's clear by this point that his days as the Green Ranger are numbered, and it all culminates in Green No More, where his powers finally give out on him for good in the middle of a battle, in one of the show's most legitimately dramatic scenes. He's able to get one final recharge to save the day, but that's it. That's the end of the Mighty Morphin Green Ranger. And that's something that's underscored in the next episode, Missing Green. Tommy's not in this one, but we explore Jason's regret that Tommy was unable to keep his powers. Missing Green was the first episode after the Zoo 2 footage was exhausted, so it was the first to use footage in kaiju entirely from the 1993 series Die Ranger. And like its predecessor, Die Ranger also had a sixth hero, a White Ranger. Again, you can guess what happens next.
Guess who's back?
I don't believe it.
In the two-parter White Light, Tommy returns as the White Ranger, the new leader of the Power Rangers. And it's here that I'm going to leave off in the Power Rangers retrospective portion of this video, because Tommy the White Ranger just isn't as interesting as Tommy the Green Ranger. The edges of his character have been sanded off, and while he does make a good leader, he feels way more two-dimensional than the much more fully realized character he was during Season 1 and the early part of Season 2. Tommy was still popular, and he would be the last of the original cast standing, enduring countless cast changes. The first occurring just a few episodes after his arrival as the White Ranger, when half the cast walked off. Again, we'll get to that. He'd slide into the Red Ranger role with the change to Power Ranger Zeo, and would stay in that role until the midway point of Turbo. More than any other actor, Jason David Frank would be synonymous with the show, and even after his first stint was done, he would return to the show a number of times since. Most of these are appearances in crossover specials, like 2002's fan favorite Forever Red, or his less well-received appearances during Megaforce and Ninja Steel. Most intriguing was his 2004 starring role in Dino Thunder, a favor to then executive producer Doug Sloan, where he serves as mentor to a new team of Power Rangers. And he can't resist putting on the spandex himself. JDF's performance of Tommy led to some inspired storytelling in more recent Power Rangers works outside of the TV show. Boom Studios began publishing a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic, written by Ryan Higgins, and set in the first season after the Green with Evil storyline concluded. This run focused heavily on Tommy, centering on his feelings of regret for the things he'd done under Rita's spell. This led to the introduction of a new foe, Lord Drakon, an alternate version of Tommy who never returned to the side of good, who defeated the Power Rangers once and for all. Drakon would become a major figure in the comics, and JDF would even get to portray him in live action. But being synonymous with a franchise is a double-edged sword. Yes, Jason David Frank was the closest thing to an ambassador the franchise ever had. But Power Rangers itself is a franchise that chews up actors and spits them out. The amount of talents that build a sustainable career after the show is remarkably small. Most Rangers are just famous for being in Power Rangers. And Jason David Frank wasn't an exception to this. He did make some efforts to branch out, most notably with a few years in MMA, but he never managed to escape Tommy Oliver. And while he was, by all accounts, an exceptional ambassador for the franchise, in August 2022, he announced his retirement from the role. He chose instead to focus on a feature film funded via Kickstarter, Legend of the White Dragon. It's in post-production and it's set for release in 2023. Jason's life took a more tragic turn in the last few years. His death is believed to be by suicide. It's a reminder that even a formidable, strong on-screen hero can battle significant demons internally, and that those demons may be too strong to overcome. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to feel anger, to feel loss. but we should cherish the memories of what he gave millions of kids, particularly as the Green Ranger. He gave us a hero who struggled, a hero who battled regret, a hero who tried his best against impossible odds. Godspeed, Tommy Oliver. May the power protect you. If you are contemplating self-harm, please go to your nearest crisis center. You may also call the local suicide hotlines in your country. In the US, this is 988. In Canada, this is 1-833-456-4566. You are loved. You are worth it. Please seek help.